fasten your seatbelts.
Last man standing.
What's up, people? Addy Ads here, and I'm joined by the crew here at Neighborhood News Hour: George Webb, Detroit Dave Underdown, Aaron Adler, and Tom CIA. And we're going to be joined shortly by Dr. Paul Cottrell. We're just doing a quick 60-minute chat or so before we watch Tucker and Bobby Linsky discuss the happenings with the phones and Hunter Biden. But as I said before we get to that, we're just going to do a quick update on what we've been doing since then. Paul Cottrell should be joining us shortly here. But other than that, what are you guys looking forward to tonight? What are you thinking about this Bobby Linsky tonight here, George?
Well, I think everybody's thinking the same thing. Everyone's wondering about Hunter Biden's pearl necklace. And I'm not thinking about the one that's in the video that was filmed in China. I'm thinking about the pearl necklace, the business deal that was done in China, his pearl necklace. And if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, it's the deal that's in this released phone call with what he calls the richest man in the world, and it's about an LNG port. How many times have we talked about LNG ports and how that was the backbone of this China Belt and Road deal? And it turns out he's talking about this richest guy in the world doing an LNG port on the easternmost port of China on one end of this pearl necklace. And then every other port along the way, as far as the ocean-based pearl necklace, is another pearl in the necklace going all the way to the Baku, all the way to the Caspian Sea. And then there's another railroad that is being used above that, seemingly as more the nuclear, this is the place where they're doing the fracking. And then they're just draining all these countries, all the stands, and then shipping it to the LNG ports. It's just that simple. It just seems like a Sino straw. It
sounds like something Burisma would be very interested in being a party in.
It's a big Burisma operation. It's just basically draining many countries that China doesn't have sovereignty over, using a proxy, which is the PAC-ISI. And so the new names that have come up here, Eric Yuan is this CEO of Zoom. He seems to be the Mr. Big in this. There's another name, Patrick Ho, who seems to be the patsy. And then there's another guy named Yi, who seems to be the mystery man who commits all the crimes, and now he's gone.
And there's also the 2.8 carat diamond gift giver too. Yeah. That's another interesting point.
So it's one of these things where, Lee Harvey Oswald, we have a Lee Harvey Oswald, which is, I would say, Patrick Ho. And then we also have in this story kind of a gunman appearing out of the grate, in front of the Kennedy limousine, who's going to magically disappear. So that's going to end all roads for getting to this. And we're not going to do that. We're going to go to the real people and the real money and the real people who launched this thing. And that's going to be the CEO of Eric, the one all these messages are going to. And you can even see in Hunter Biden's cover story, you're going to hear this call a little bit later tonight, about how all the messages were going to Eric and how Joe Biden was forwarding all the messages to Eric. And my dad keeps taking the calls. No, the dad doesn't keep taking the calls because he's not. Oh, there's Paul Cottrell. He doesn't keep taking the calls because he's stupid and he doesn't know how to turn calls off. He keeps taking the calls because they're covering for a deal that happened over time. And the guy who called it, the guy who said it was the Channel Islands, the same place where the LNG port is none other than the guy who just joined this chat, Paul Cottrell.
Hey, how you doing?
Wow, what a lead! You shat on my lead.
So The thing is I've been watching what's been going on the last 24 hours with YouTube and what happened to Neighborhood News Watch, the News Hour, and I was just shocked because I did a premiere. This is the funny. This is weird, really. I did a premiere with John O'Laughlin. He did a recording one week ago. And I have a copy of the video he did, and I premiered it on my channel. Literally within that hour of premiering, his channel went down. And what's weird, George, is when we premiered our Sunday show, that's when Neighborhood News Hour went down.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'll tell you that
yeah.
our channels are really at risk for getting like knocked down. I mean, and what Addie's doing with setting you guys up on, on brand new tube, and other platforms, so we can become anti-fragile is a very smart move, very, very smart move, because we are all going to be attacked. And I think it's as we're getting closer and closer to the election, we're going to get more and more of this type of censorship, or just flat out completely platform banned.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. And I was actually curious to
is that driving?
That's
okay.
What we're using right now. I was actually curious as to why Paul Cottrell hasn't gotten axed yet. For me, it's like, well, I don't have a very big channel, so maybe that's the reason. But like, Paul, you have a decent amount of subscribers, so I don't know. Like, why do you think we're still alive and kicking over on the YouTube?
Well, I mean, you and I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. Both you and I have been demonetized, and I've been bleeding. I've been bleeding the size of small channels. I over the last, because I gain subscribers and I lose subscribers. This is how their algorithm works. So over the last 5-6 months, I have lost thousands of subscribers, but I've gained also. So there's been this wax and waning, but it's a bleed. So, and you've seen it too.
Shrimps.
Yeah, you've seen it too. So, and I've been completely demonetized on both channels. That's why I went to Brighteon as kind of like my backup to preserving the record, because of, I do shows with Mike Adams. I didn't know about Brand New Tube until, you recently told me about it, maybe about a month ago.
Yeah.
But
and can Brighteon live stream, Paul? Do you know?
No.
No. Yet. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
See, what's the problem is that Mike Adams, he basically set it all up. It's out of his own pocket, and he was hiring coders. But his whole infrastructure was running off of AWS. That's the Amazon cloud. All right. Well, that put certain constraints, financial constraints, in terms of being able to load larger files faster, having the live streams, having the, that kind of thing. So it doesn't have that. That is a major weakness, but he's getting away from AWS, and he's working on improving the product and trying to get investors. He told me he was trying to get investors also to help grow the product. But
what are your thoughts this week, Paul, as we head into the election? I know you had an exam today. You look a little more exhausted than you might usually, but I don't know if that's just the lighting.
No, I'm exhausted. I mean, the last 3 days I've been like going full bore with studying, but no, I am tired. But the whole country's tired. Forget about me. The whole country's tired of trying to battle these these deep staters and these Democrats that are on the take. They're known to be taking money and being funded by the CCP or other organizations that are tied to kind of more of a one world government or a Chinese century plan. and we just have to keep on moving forward and keep battling, no matter how tired we are. We're getting near the finishing line. I don't know, depending on the poll you listen to, what channel you listen to, is Trump behind or is he ahead? If I talk to the circle of friends that I have, everyone's thinking that he's actually ahead. But if you listen to mainstream media, he's behind. Well, I don't know what the real story is. I do remember in 2016, the day before the election, Ted Nugent is playing the national anthem at the last rally that Trump goes to in Michigan. I think it was Battle Creek.
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, that's right. And I was close, but that was kind of the rallying cry of hey, we have to have this happen. I think we're going to have a moment like that. It's just right before the last day. Trump pulls ahead. Hopefully, but we cannot lose at the election at the ballot box, because we are all going to be hunted down. I mean, we can't. I mean, I'm not talking this metaphorically. I'm talking about seriously here. This is the battle of the soul of our country and the livelihood of us individuals. This cannot. We cannot have Biden in the office.
Yeah.
So, so I'm hoping that the flyover country holds the line and gets the president back into the White House, because places like California, places like New York, that's Biden country. I mean, they're all voting for Biden. I'm kind of a lost soul in New York, voting for Trump, being in New York, but we have to, even though we're tired, we just have to keep on blasting away on the networks that we do have, that Trump needs to win, and to call off these deep staters, these Bidens, everyone that's involved in the corruption and the pedophilia and everything else.
Definitely. Yeah. And I don't know if you heard, Paul, but George opened up a lawsuit against YouTube yesterday, and there's other YouTubers doing the same thing out on the West Coast as well. We set up a GoFundMe for legal fees and such. So it's something that's actions are being taken to take this to the legal system, because like you said, if Biden does win, then the chances of YouTubers and citizen journalists winning a lawsuit against Google, I think, goes down very much so. Whereas they're just putting all their chips in the pot. And I said this earlier this year. When I was actually talking to you, Paul, every group is putting their chips all in the pot right now with this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, and they're trying to take advantage. And the big event that is tying it all together really is the 3rd of November. So I think
I'm concerned about the BioPatriot Act, even if Trump's in office.
Yeah,
but the BioPatriot Act is going to be accelerated and pushed through under a controlled House and a controlled White House. All right, but Democrat controlled House of Representatives and the White House. And that means that they're going to push forward fast decashing. Fast. And they're going to push fast this forced vaccine program. And we're going to start seeing our constitutional freedoms erode daily. You're going to see that erosion. We cannot let that happen. That's why I've been saying from early February about the BioPatriot Act. My claim to fame is talking about genomes and viruses, but the reality of the situation is the most important thing that I've been saying for months is about the civil liberty erosion because of this crisis. And it's what I call the BioPatriot Act, because 9/11 led in the Patriot Act that eroded our civil liberties and blew up the FBI, the CIA, the TSA, Yeah, I mean, you had never-ending surveillance. They wanted more and more. That led to FISA courts, and that led to corruption and more spying and the Snowden stuff, and everything that came out with Julian Assange, with WikiLeaks. It's gonna.
The Eye of Sauron. I call it the Eye of Sauron.
And the thing is with 9/11, it was fast. It was fast, and they created fear. This is slow, and what they do is they create fatigue, and and eventually people are just going to capitulate and say, hey, you know what? I want that job, so I'm going to have to take that vaccine. And a means to test to see if we capitulate is the masks. The masks are a social mechanism for capitulation, or these little gun type temperature gauges. We are slowly being desensitized to accepting a barrel of a gun in front of our head if we start to protest or start to express our discontent for a particular policy.
Yeah.
So this is going to be accelerated under Biden, because Biden's an empty shell. There's going to. I mean, mentally he's an empty shell. All right, but he's bought and paid for by the CCP, and so is Harris. Harris is not. Harris I don't like, but she's not an empty shell. All right, and they're going to get what they thought they're going to get, a version of Biden-Harris as what they were hoping for with Clinton.
Yeah, and we were talking.
And that was the
earlier
CCP. And when I say they, I mean the CCP.
Right. And just the possibility of the 25th Amendment being invoked, and possibly seeing Clinton-Harris or Harris-Clinton, White House, with Sleepy Joe just calling it quits on the 4th of November. Well, even though it's probably going to be weeks before this is decided. So regardless, it's
well.
tactic that I think they may use, and they probably are using.
Do you believe in kind of like prophecy at all?
I believe in we've talked a bit about this, Paul. I'm not really sure. What do you mean by that? Can you expand?
Okay, so I interviewed on my channel John Hogue. He's like the expert of Nostradamus. Okay. All right, he's been on the History Channel and on all these different channels,
Oh wow,
for decades. Or I mean, he's written 50 books on Nostradamus. Well, he's been on my channel. And I interviewed him, and he gave this scary prediction, dire prediction. He said, Trump, if he wins, he will not, and he said specifically, he will not finish his second term. He will probably die in his second term. So Pence will be president. The other prediction is that within 1 year, if Biden wins, within 1 year, he'll be dead, and that Harris will be in. So the prediction is that whoever is elected is not going to be the one that carries the torch.
Right.
It's the VP that's going to be, the point he's making is the VP is going to be taking the seat.
What do you think about Pence, Paul?
I don't really like him. I honestly, I never really had a wow factor. He's much better than Romney, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Romney, you can't trust. But the thing is with Pence, there's a part of me that thinks that he could be played. He could be a puppet. I don't see the backbone. Like, he looks like a typical politician.
Yeah.
But he's not. I don't think he's as nefarious as, let's say, Romney, at all. But I just, unfortunately, here's the problem. Who is going to step up to the plate when Trump is gone? It's not Pence. There's no one in the bench. It's not Lindsey Graham. It's nobody. It's not Trey Gowdy. There's no one out there.
Yeah.
That's in politics that is like, that's
no
like
McConnell.
Trump. No, I
The
mean,
Journo.
So you're
You
saying
know.
basically Trump doesn't have a trusted lieutenant, basically.
yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
unfortunately, what the problem is that in the Republican Party, there's not a deep bench of people that are going to be anti-CCP, anti-deep state, and pro-American.
And anti-war, which I
Yeah.
think is a huge draw across the aisle in terms of left and right that Trump has. But I think maybe a lot of people don't really realize.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, so there's a lot going on that we got to keep our eye on.
Yeah, Detroit
Biden-
Dave wants to say something.
Oh, I was just saying too with Trump, I feel like really the only support he has is the family, and they're for the most part unelected, or they're not supposed to be involved in they. So I feel like those are really the only trusted advisors or people that could on the bench or whatever that would come in to sort of pick up his policies. But because I agree, I mean I feel like Trump is not in line with definitely the the RNC sort of talking points. There is a conflict there, so it's.
Well, I agree with you, but here's the problem. When you're dealing with personalities like the Bushes or the Trumps or the Clintons, it's very easy to fall into the dynastic, aspects to the family. I do not want a dynasty running the White House.
Yeah.
I don't want to. That's not what our country is about, because what that will lead to is kingship, just that it goes through an electoral process. But I'm against dynasties. So yeah, is there similarities in personality with Don Jr.? Yeah, maybe. But I would prefer never to have Junior or Ivanka as president of the United States, because their father was president of the United States. I don't believe in dynastic, lineage for the presidency at all.
I think even with the talk about Hunter right now, I mean, it is, are the children of the candidates, are they fair game as far as, making a statement about what the person that's actually running, do you lump them all together? And in this situation, with the, the Burisma and, the Boai harvest and all the history with Rosemont Seneca, I think the answer has to be yes on that. But it seems like they're really pushing it as, you can compare,
Here's the strange thing. If Trump's family did only 1/100th of what Hunter Biden did with his crack pipe, it would be all over the news. But here's the problem is that Hunter, one, was dishonorably discharged from from military service, which is in my mind is unforgivable. But not only that, he was part of a investment firm that was selling secrets between the United States to China. So he's a traitor. So not only could he not serve in the military with distinction or with honor, but he couldn't be a businessman and not sell his country down the river. So yeah, I think it's fair game to go after these types of people when they're traitors to this country, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Paul, I want to ask you if you know who that is.
Well, there's a lot of glare, but it looks Asian, but I can't. Zoom? Well, is that Xi? Is that President Xi? No,
Eric.
No, he's the CEO of Zoom. That's your clue.
Zoom? Oh, okay. All right.
His name is Eric Yuan.
Eric Yuan.
Oh, okay.
Just remember the currency of
And
the nation.
he is the person that's going to be spoken about in about 30 minutes on Hunter Biden. Oh, there's a phone call. And he's going to talk about this Bob Ulinsky, the guy who was invited to the debate, is going to talk about him as his business partner. He's going to talk about how his father, Joe Biden, keeps getting calls and keeps getting messages and keeps forwarding them to Hunter. okay, the CEO of Zoom, and he's also going to talk in this phone call. You're going to hear Jim Hoff with Gateway Pundit broke it earlier today. But in this phone call, you're going to hear him talk about LNG ports. You're not only going to hear him talk about LNG ports, but you're going to hear him talk about the largest LNG port in the world. And you're going to hear how his partner, Eric, was involved in China near the Channel Islands that you've been talking about for 3 months, building the largest LNG port in the world. And you're not only going to hear about him building the largest LNG port in the world, but you're going to hear how that is the first pearl in a string of pearls of ports controlled by both China and a sort of a British intelligence kind of consortium, this CEFC. And you're going to hear how Bob Alinsky was sort of representing the U.S. Five Eyes side of the deal. And you're going to hear how this Yi, who was the CEO of CEFC for the string of pearls, all these ports, all these huge LNG ports that were going to take all this stolen energy, is missing. You're going to hear how he's missing. The string of pearls CEO is missing. So there's a lot coming in a half hour. You're also going to find out that we have been confirmed that two of the three phones that Bob Alinsky was in this deal were Blackberries. One was an iPhone 9. And another business partner, which is Amos Huckstein, also used a Blackberry. So those who think Blackberries matter just got a lot more credibility tonight. And I think I know a guy who wrote a book by that title.
Paul, I wanted to ask you too, with the fears of Biden being, compromised by China. This story when Biden was accused of doing getting the prosecutor fired in Ukraine. What's your take on that? Do you think he was acting as an agent of China in that situation with the Ukrainian gas deals, or just, because I do think that there is a lot of compromise.
I think
Biden's got a lot more bite than, than he's, Hunter, is obviously has his personal problems that we're, all seeing, in front of the world. But I think Joe, it really is especially with these gas deals, I think it looks like he's got quite a legacy of doing this kind of activity.
He's on the take. He is on the take. He's probably less on the take than the Clintons, but he is almost as bad. But he's on the take. There's no doubt about it. And he used his executive power as the VP to create deals that benefited his family. This is known. This is established. So, and this is the problem with people like with the Bidens and the Bushes.
What about
they swear an oath to the Constitution.
What about the Iran nuclear deal with the Secretary of State's son and the Vice President's son working in the same company associated with that? That's a pretty problematic relationship there that seems to have not gotten discussed at all.
Right. And here's the problem is they're supposed to be going through clearance through the State Department to make sure that they can do these deals. Now, who allowed them to do this? Who, it's not just them doing it that's bad, but who allowed them to do it? And then you get closer and closer to the real root cause. The root cause isn't really Biden or, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, doing deals in Ukraine and in China, but who was the Secretary of State at that time, and why were they given the clearance to be able to do it? Because I keep on saying that the CCP and the deep state are together. All right, they're trying to weaken the United States and strengthen for a Chinese century. All right, and the Bidens and the Clintons, they're tied into the weakening of this country by sharing technology, creating a never-ending annuity for the scientific, military industrial complex. I added scientific on the end because of all the bioweapons, but you're right. You're absolutely right. These guys have been using their power, prestige, their connections for self-advancement. But there's supposed to be a check within the State Department that prevents that. And the thing is, they allowed it. Now the question
is
is
that the
why.
FBI
They knew,
doing
Dan.
it?
You know,
Double check
the
this?
FBI is domestic. The CIA and the State Department is international.
So if you're going to
So
get a
when
top
CNA,
secret clearance through the Naval Reserve program, what department is going to give the clearance to give that?
well, I would
Is
assume
that,
it's the State Department. I would
is
say
it the State
assume that's the
Department that
State
runs
Department. I would
that? So-
assume it's the State Department or the Defense Department.
So if your
Maybe
own
it's
father then is the
Well, yeah,
head of it?
that's yeah. Well, what's that Clearwater Creedence song? You know, I'm not a senator. It's, you know, senator's son. You know, I'll tell you. You know, it's this is the problem. This is the problem. This is the problem with the Bidens and many others, like the Clintons and the Bushes. You know, they are put into they have a position of power at a certain branch of government, and they're able to leverage that power to benefit their family. They get insider information. The things that they were doing and trading, the average citizen, if they did, they'd be thrown in jail for 30 years for insider trading. I mean, Martha Stewart did a lot less.
Yeah.
And it was
I mean, I
only
think
50
that's the
grand,
technical
and
argument
she had to do
that it's not illegal to have
time.
a child, you know, in those roles, and that's kind of what they stand on. But you know, there's a lot.
So what we know, what we're going to find out in about 25 minutes is that there was this tremendous number of messages going from Yuan, the head of Zoom. Now, did he write a backdoor into Zoom? So all of our conversations now with coronavirus, there's a backdoor for China. We don't know. But we do know that there are all these messages being handled by Joe Biden going to Yuan, one of the richest guys in the world. We do know it's for a large LNG port in China near the Channel Islands, overlooking the Channel Islands, right? And we do know that it's not just the first pearl. It's a string of pearls. Mm-hmm. And I know how difficult this is with all this sex talk with Hunter Biden, and you say pearl necklace and everybody jumps to the bad pearl necklace with Hunter Biden. But this is Hunter Biden's pearl necklace of ports with LNG ports. And how are they fracking all this gas? How are they fracking all this gas? We've seen over and over and over again where people have said these are small nuclear reactors. They used to do it with coal. They used to do it with, you could do it with petroleum. You do it geothermal even, but you need to heat the water. You need a water heater. Mm-hmm. And this Bobulinski is a nuclear guy. Who was the deal with between Hunter Biden? China what group? China Nuclear Group. Where were the secrets that you mentioned that were passed from Burisma and Bohai Harvest and Rosemont Seneca to China Nuclear Group? China Nuclear Group, the small modular reactor. That would keep the CIA in control, especially if it was the CANDU reactor, because the CANDU reactor can do these things like depleted uranium and these poorer sources, plutonium, etc. And isn't it the best deal in the world? They get paid, this Navy group gets paid for doing the waste, huge contracts, $1 trillion contracts to do this waste. They're going to vitrify it in New Mexico. They're going to vitrify it in Guam. And then they turn right around, they put it into the CANDU reactor to do the fracking.
And to prove your point, from a geopolitical perspective, what is the best way to prop up a energy sector for the CCP is to weaken the energy sector for Russia. And this is part of the dynamic of why the politic here has been anti-Russia and pro-China with the Democratic Party, because they are on the take to benefit, to try to leapfrog the nuclear and the oil and gas industry for China.
This is the pearl necklace. We have the video. This isn't the GTV video. We actually have the pearl necklace video from Hunter Biden. This is the real pearl necklace. These are the ports. All of them are choke points in the Belt and Road. All of them are choke points, you notice. And this is the pearl necklace that you're looking at right now.
Mm-hmm. And, here, sorry.
This way a little more.
We're almost getting. I think we're starting to become the next. We
CIA.
probably no. We'll be better than the war room from Steve Bannon.
I said,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
Bam.
we did that about 3 years ago.
We see Indonesia and the Maldives on there. I mean, all the favorite places. These guys. They're on the pearl necklace strand.
Yeah, it's the pearl necklace.
Mhm.
And everybody's going to be conjuring up images tomorrow of what we talked about. And they're going to go, oh, there was no pearl necklace in the video. That's not what we were talking about.
Yep. Clutch
Right.
your pearls, everyone.
Clutch your pearls.
Yep.
But
I was actually
it's
thinking
what's
about this, Paul. But no, go ahead.
just real quick. What's important though is that what George is saying about the nuclear, small nuclear way of fracking, so you can go into a remote area and do it and then move on. And controlling energy, that matches what we've been seeing from what the Democratic Party has been promoting the last 10 years. And that's this anti-Russia, pro-China agenda. See, it's not what they say, it's what they do, especially over time. And they're starting to show their colors on what exactly the game plan here is. And I've been stating all along that it's about the first island chains and the loss of hegemonic power. And this is why Xi is rapidly moving forward with trying to integrate Hong Kong way before the treaty with the UK, and integrate Taiwan. And the Taiwanese definitely do not want that. We don't want that. The Japanese don't want it, So and then you have the military operations that are going on with Japan and India. And India is, how many of those ports are around India?
Many.
Those pearls. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4.
Right,
And
right.
one in Sri Lanka too.
One in Sri Lanka.
Right. So I'll tell you, there is a big concern that we're going to be losing hegemonic power in the Pacific. And if the Democrats get into office, they're going to accelerate that. They're going to accelerate. And George, it was your grandfather, or was it your father that was in the Navy during World War II?
Father was in the Army in the South Pacific.
Oh, okay. So, with my grandfather, he was island hopping, during World War II, as a CB. And, my father, he served in the European theater in 61 to 63 as a tanker in Germany. So, but I'll tell you, you just connect the dots, and it's pointing a lot to oil, gas, the energy sector, and the nuclear sector. And there seems to be, that all the points seem to be going right to Biden's family, and
But there's a quality of an extremely poorly written screenplay. And the only two guys I know that always have that signature of a horrible screenplay. One is Adam Schiff on the Democratic side, and the other one's Steve Bannon. And this has the whole Bannon thing where, I don't want my dad to forward any more emails to Eric. The vice president doesn't have anything better to do than forward all these emails about my LNG port in China to Eric, who's the CEO. He might be Eric Braverman that we're talking about. That could be the Eric, or Eric Schmidt of Google. We don't know if that is the guy he's talking about, but it's an Eric, and he's a rich Eric,
The richest person in the world, according to the message. Also,
yeah. And so this is Jim Hoff.
the richest person. I mean,
He calls him the richest person in the world, and that's so Bannon-esque because Bannon always goes all the way out to the end limit. Bannon doesn't know how to Google. He goes, hey, well, let's just call him the richest. No one will ever fact check me. So, this thing is coming in, how many minutes? 13, 14 minutes. So we're going to cut over to that when it happens, but I'll give it back to Eddie here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Paul, what you said, it reminded me of a conversation I had with Aaron recently where we're basically Aaron said we were better than the FBI. It's kind of funny, but just working as like public intelligence agents, really. And you know, because you mentioned the war room, and you know, you're kind of, you know, you wear many hats, Paul, and one of them is public intelligence agent. So
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say though, with anything Hunter Biden related, I mean, you got to go right back to Adam Schiff's impeachment. That was the whole idea of the impeachment, was based on, you know, is Trump basically bullying a political rival through a partner nation for providing military assistance to them. That was basically the bottom line. What Adam Schiff said Trump did that was so horrible they need to be removed from office was based on attacking Hunter Biden, basically, for having this relationship with Burisma. I mean, that was.
But you always, if you're in politics, you always do things through your kids. You're not stupid enough to do it through yourself and throw in all these laws. But let's go back to when I meet this guy, Deep Blackberry. What if that guy came forward and that laptop is out there? You would have to invent some kind of cockamamie story about a laptop being left at a computer shop. You have to explain how it gets to the Steve Bannon. How did it get to Steve Bannon?
how did he get to Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon's a screenwriter. They went, hey Steve, we got a real problem. This one guy dropped off a thing, and everybody knows.
Well,
about
not only
it.
that, he's compromised because because of his issue with the build the wall. So he may be saying, you know what, I'll toe a line for a certain story if you help me out.
Right. Oh, Bannon's written cover stories for decades.
Uh-huh.
So we're. Yeah. So yeah. No, I agree with you. It's a little bit of a Andrew Weissman thumb on his back, saying, "Hey, you got to play
This
ball
is what
here."
you want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what I wanted to add to what Dave was saying, with Shifty Schiff, making, basically saying, oh, the Trump family's bad, Orange Man's bad, and everything that Trump does is bad, and that that the Democrats need to get into office, and that there was some sort of Russian collusion and all that. During that whole impeachment trial and investigation, it was always to try to get Trump to seem as though he was aligned with the Russians and the Russians were meddling in our election. All right. And the reality of the situation was we were meddling in Ukrainian elections, rightfully or wrongly. I don't know, but we were. And the reality of the situation is that we geopolitically are more aligned with the Russians than with the Chinese. All right, and people need to start to realize that. So Shifty Shift was trying to promote that deep state agenda, or that the DNC/CCP agenda of, we want a Chinese century, we want Russia to be weakened, especially when it comes to energy, and the only one that's stopping that is some guy named Trump, because he's pro-American and he's not willing to do the same things that the Clintons and the Bidens did.
But what do we know happened in December of 2019? That's when the evidence came forward, right? So Schiff launches in on January 1st into the impeachment, right? Mm-hmm. So we know whatever this is damning. Now you have to decide if you're gullible enough to believe that some computer guy, most computer people are like, hey, give me the money, right? If you don't give me the money, I'm going to just sell this thing. I'm going to erase the hard drive and sell this thing. How does that guy smart enough to go in there and know the passwords of Hunter Biden and then all of a sudden start leaking this out, right? It just seems so placed. It just doesn't seem credible that a computer repairman who is owed $85, and if he knows it's for the Biden family, does he never want to do business ever again with the Bidens? If he's in Delaware, in Wilmington, does he not know where Joe Biden lives in Wilmington, Correct. Delaware? Could you not drive it over to the house and knock on the door and say,
exactly.
Hey, dude, why aren't you picking up your laptop? I mean, these common sense questions aren't being asked by anybody. Bannon's getting away with all this ridiculous bullshit. It's obvious.
Well, the thing is,
a cover story for another whistleblower that's coming forward, and they do this every time, and people eat this shit up.
Yeah.
I can't believe
it. And I think Joe Biden was the attorney general for the state of Delaware too. So there's going to be a lot of information on a laptop that's going to be pretty You
Well,
know,
I
it
mean,
just doesn't seem like, you know, if you're the attorney general of a state that you would be going to, you know, the random, you know, cracked screen repair shop on the corner or whatever. You'd be going to, you have your own IT department to be handling that. There's going to be classified stuff. I mean, the whole story is just, it's terrible. You know, I can't believe they run with them, but here we are, you know?
All right, let me just ask some just simple questions, George, and you just answer yes or no. All right. So the items the items
Mossad
that
Blackguard? No.
no, the items that they're claiming are on the laptop, you believe are true photos,
Yeah, but that
or you think
I
they're
could have done
doctored?
those. I could have done those last weekend. If I was trying to throw people off of the string of pearls and all these different things, I could go create that over a weekend. I could have the girl with the shoe polish film that last weekend. Why would it come out now if it wasn't a diversion?
It was toenail polish.
Oh, it
Well,
is.
I agree with you, George. I agree with you, George, that, you know, almost always when something comes out this big, it's a diversion, and you need to look at some other things too. Now, my thought
You
was
would
that the
recognize the name
diversion.
Biden. You know, the
Well,
shoe,
you know, no,
the repair guy,
Bow
wouldn't.
Bowden Foundation sticker.
Yeah, they
Well,
would
I mean, if
recognize that.
the
It's
the
just so
average
ridiculous.
no the
And then it's in the
the-
lost and found. It's like, oh, nobody came to pick it up, so now
No, but
it's,
the
you
la-
know, fair
the-
game.
the
and I can just
average-
take it off the Rudy. Come on.
the
I'm not
average
gonna.
repair
say
guy,
something. I'm not
the
gonna.
average
pretend,
repair guy.
I'm not gonna
would-
pretend that I didn't buy it at first because it sounded like a great story. For me, it was like, oh, we have a patriot who works as a computer repair guy who just said F it to the FBI.
Legally blind repair guy too. Though.
Oh,
You
is
gotta
it
remember.
really?
Oh yeah, they threw the legally blind in there also.
Dave, I think, made a lot of great points from George, but Dave made me the best point, which is like, why wouldn't they just hire their own internal team to fix it or whatever the problem was with the laptop, you know? So
Let's go ahead and give the laptop to some, you know, about our string of pearls, all these nukes and you know,
terabytes of
all classified, all where I'm making $83,000 a month with this Cover Black CIA guy. Let's go ahead and give that to some random guy. It just doesn't make any sense.
My dad's the vice
And
president.
if this had a Beau Biden sticker on it, wouldn't you just drive over to Biden's house and go, "Hey, you left this, and I want my $85." It's just so simple. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no. I would take it even further, one step further, George. I would think that if the computer repair guy said, "Hey, there's some sensitive information on here that you may want this back," and oh, by the way, you know what? You know, I got some bills that need to be taken care of, like in the tune of you know $300,000 or $400,000.
Yeah. Well, that's extortion.
No.
I mean,
Well,
just
yeah,
think
but the thing is that
Biden's been a
if it's
senator
that
there for
bad, if it's
36
that bad,
years.
they're going to pay for it.
yeah, I know, but digging into somebody's laptop is a crime. You know, I mean, the explanation I heard that this guy would be a tort lawyer as well as a computer repairman, and he would know that if it was less than over 90 days, that he would technically own all the data. No,
That's a good point. That's a good point. That
I
it
don't
almost
think
seems
so.
like it's been
Right.
walked by a
There
lawyer.
are, you know, there
Yeah.
are rules with left property that you know that you
Yeah.
follow that people are aware of.
but what if there was a check left in somebody's pocket that for $100,000? Would you go cash it and say, "Well, no, you left it, Charlie"?
Well, not listening to the Steve Bannon laptop stories, I feel like I got a check for 20 million Bitcoin on the laptop first thing. You know, so did you do a search for that? I mean, or is the laptop left in the what is it, the old phone booth in Congress? I mean, it's a lot of good laptop stories to go through. I can't figure out which one's my favorite.
Okay, well, I guess that's the lead-in for the show. We'll be back at 9. Go ahead. Here's Tom.
And what the other thing that I think's weird is, so all three of them with the Beau Biden Foundation stickers on them, all three of them get broke at once, or what? And you take those all
Water
three?
damage on one.
See,
I
what
mean-
happens is Bannon's so bad that he goes, "Oh, I have to now explain another thing. Oh, well, let's introduce another laptop and then a third laptop."
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
waterlogged
come on,
one. I
the
mean,
first, come
the
on.
waterlogged one was in the hot tub. It had to have been, you know,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
Or in the bubble bath.
The
or-
ruby slippers, you know.
Had the candles going with the the toenail polish.
Let me ask everybody, what would you do if you were the computer repair guy and you had 3 laptops that said Beau Biden Foundation on them? Would you just
I'd be
not
asking
say
for 300,000.
Yeah.
Would you know that the father was the former vice president of the United States?
He was a senator there for 36 years.
Okay,
The,
I'm just
the
asking
vice
the question.
president
I mean,
for
I
8
feel like you're not
years.
allowed to ask basic
You
questions.
know how small Delaware is?
It's a little bitty place.
You can't
can
change your
drive across
mind.
it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, you can't change your mind in Delaware. I mean,
Come
you gotta,
on, man. I thought he was Scranton.
Come on,
I
man.
didn't even know he was in Delaware. I thought he was in
Pennsylvania.
I thought he was working class lunch pail Joe. Come on.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Paul. It's been a minute since we've talked to you, or since we've talked. But doing it in a group like this is pretty great. And I wanted to give a shout out to Major Prather, who gave George and I a boost today, according to someone in the comments. So shout out to Major Prather for that, and we should definitely try to get Major Prather on the show. Hope maybe even before the election. We got we're in election week here, people. This is our pre-Tucker Carlson, Bobby Linsky cast with Dr. Paul Cottrell, live from New York City, and we are here in the Midwest, flyover country, as Paul said. This is the country that's going to decide the election. This part of the country here, this region. So, right in the thick of it here, we got Paul infiltrating New York City, the DNC stronghold that it is.
Can I tell the Bannon story really quick?
Yeah, and we're going to go back to the very attractive Steve Bannon. Go
Okay.
ahead, George.
I'm sitting in the grill in Washington, D.C. with Lee Stranahan, right? And he worked for Bannon, okay? And I know like 20 people who know Bannon, right? And anyway, he worked for Bannon over at Breitbart. Well, Breitbart, he was getting rid of all the good reporters and bringing in all these shills, right? So Lee pulls out his phone. He shows me. He says, "Look, Guccifer 2, this is the DNC email guy that supposedly has the emails, is emailing me." And then he's
I'm gonna jump in here with my Dave. I'm out Dave here. Guccifer 1, Romanian hacker who hacked into Sony, and he's now in prison. And then I guess the Guccifer 2 is this made up guy that they tried to push.
Was it Konstantin Kilnick? I thought that's who
Oh,
your suspect was.
well, it was, but there's Warren Flood over there.
Warren
you
Flood
can see him. You can
okay.
see him. But
Anyway, I interrupted.
No,
Guccifer 2.
no, he's got the phone. He's showing me the phone. Hey, look, Guccifer 2. He's emailing me. And I said, "Wow, Lee, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. And you can go to this site and see all my things, dcleaks.com and everything. And this is all the spreadsheets of the donors of the DNC." Obvious plant, not the real donors, not the real Frank Juster partners running these energy deals in Kazakhstan. And then here's Steve Bannon's emails, text messages laced right in between all the Guccifer messages. And Steve Bannon's going, "Hey, did you get that thing?" Or, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool that you talked to Guccifer 2. It's like, and then Lee asked me, he goes, "Who do you think Guccifer 2 is?" I said, "Steve Bannon." It's obvious. He's Steve Bannon. He's goosing you.
Yeah.
He's goosing you to write a story about this. It's obviously they're trying to drip some blood on these emails. It's a lure. They're goosing you. That's why they call it Guccifer. They're goosing these right-wing outlets to pick this thing up. And with Jim Hoft today, I just saw Jim Hoft and Peter Duke and Tracy Connors did a great interview with him. But they're goosing you, Jim. They're goosing you right here at the end with the tape. The tape is another goose. They want you to run out off on a wild goose chase and say, "Oh, the reason why the CEO of Zoom, who is the biggest beneficiary of our society being destroyed and us sheltering in place with Operation Lockdown, the reason why there's so many emails to Joe Biden is because that guy can't get a hold of me. So he's emailing my dad, who's the vice president, and my dad's so stupid, he keeps forwarding the emails to me." Now, that's a Steve Bannon twister game that I can't even figure out. What makes a lot more sense to me is they're trying to implicate Joe Biden, right? And Eric Yuang is trying to implicate Joe Biden. And Joe Biden's saying, "I don't want any of this. Hunter, you take it. I don't want any of this in the House. You take it." So we'll see. But this is so Steve Bannon. You're not going to see the email, and Bobby Ulinsky is going to play this card tonight. Like, yeah, he was just really bothering the heck out of Joe Biden. Joe Biden just couldn't figure out. He was the CEO of Zoom.
Do you think that Hunter really relapsed, or do you think that's just a story, a cover story?
Well, whether Hunter is in the drugs or not is really immaterial to me. To me, it's all about the LNG port. And if you are trying to use U.S. dollars, USAID dollars, and Warren Buffett's trying to use USAID dollars to suck all these countries dry, right? Using CIA money so that then they can sell the oil on illegal spot markets. And this is your 25 city string of pearls plan to do that. To me, that's what matters. I don't care if Hunter Biden smokes crack and people use black.
No. But what I'm wondering is that what happens if he just ends up dying?
What's that? Oh yeah.
What happens if he just ends up dying and they blame it on, well, he was, he was relapsing and
actually talked about. That's actually my prediction for what will happen is that he will have a suicide and it'll be blamed on the bullying media and that the pundits and that everyone is so awful and they, picked on a drug addict and it's a topic that hits home with so many people. So
yeah, that could be. This is the Lee Harvey Oswald thing. We called it the caboose. The Blackberries have been around. The Blackberry train starts in 2009, 10, 11 with Hillary Clinton, Libya, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, Iran nuclear deal, Trump takedown. And then here's poor Hunter Biden getting involved at the end of 2015 after the Iran deal is done. And he's kind of like the caboose on the end. But what they're doing is just throwing all the Blackberries into the caboose and then cutting the caboose loose and then waving goodbye to Hunter Biden. Bye-bye, Hunter. And then all the press is going after this caboose, filling it full of thousands of bullet holes, thinking they got the right guy. And meanwhile, the guys like Cover Black and John Brennan, who designed this whole thing, and Hillary Clinton are getting away. So here you go.
Kevin Timmer says it's already set up for his suicide. You look at the received or released text, but Dave, we mentioned, we were talking about this and just mentioning the possibility of. We're talking about assassinations as well. But we got about 4 minutes until Tucker here, 3 minutes now. So let's wrap up so we can give a bit of a cushion to people who want to head over and watch Tucker and Bob Ulinsky. I want to thank Dr. Paul Cottrell, the great Paul Cottrell, for joining us this evening. Do you have any plugs before we sign off here, Paul? And
the only thing that I want to make sure that people do is that they follow you guys and your work. And it's not about plugging me, but it's what we need to do is make sure that whatever platform that you're using or platforms you're using, people start to subscribe. The Twitter, the Facebooks, the new brand new tubes, and whatever you're using to help support the Neighborhood News Hour and your channel, Addie, and wherever George goes. I mean, George is kind of like he's like the ninja, he's moving around, right. But whatever channels you're on, we have to support.
George Webb.
Yeah. No, but the thing is because I'll tell you, some of the old people that arch villains are coming out, saying, certain things about me and about George and, and everything. And, the thing is that we're trying to save this country. Really. We all are. Everyone in this room and the ones that are watching and we're just trying to do the right thing. And, so it's not about plugging me whatsoever. I want to try to promote what you guys are doing the best way I can, retweeting, doing shows with you guys as many times as I can. It's a little hard because of, balancing medical school, but I mean, I will do everything in my power to do that.
Now, I don't want to pick on retarded people, but the person you're talking about is retarded. Why in the world would you pixelate this BlackBerry from the Biden camp for 4 years when it clearly is the Senate Biden BlackBerry? This is the smoking gun right here. There it is. There's the night I was with Jason. There's the evidence. There's the BlackBerry, right? There's the Senate markings. This is the caboose. Okay, this is Hunter. This is the answer. So he's just retarded. There's nothing you can do. He's just stupid.
All right. Well, it's a combination of stupid and it's a combination of, everything's behind a paywall with him. Create a sensational trailer and then, go to Brighteon to see something that somewhat doesn't have that much substance. And everything you guys are doing, it's available open source, really. And that's why you guys need as much support as possible, either through donations or people subscribing or whatever. But you guys are doing a great job, and I would have never thought last year, let's say in October of last year, thinking that I'd be working with you, Addie, and Dave, and George, and everybody else on the team, and doing basically, we're trying to save our country, literally
Yep.
saving
Yep.
our Constitution. And I never thought last year in October that I'd be in the middle of this, but we are, and we have to save that Constitution at all costs. And
Well said, Paul.
I am honored, absolutely honored to be with you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Paul.
it's a great collaboration, and we need to figure out who the big guy is right now. We're heading over. We want to know who the big guy is. We want to know who H is, and we want to know who Eric is.
Yep.
So Tucker Carlson, let's see it.
Let's see it, folks. Thank you so much, Paul Cottrell, for joining us. All the comments, compliments that you bequeathed upon us. Likewise, we feel the way about you, Paul, and I feel lucky to have met you. So, thanks to everybody for joining. We will do it again soon. Stay frosty, and we'll see you all next time.
All right.
Right after Bobby Linsky. Cheers.
Okay, bye-bye.